Hey all, this is the second video in the series on starting a career as a professional composer and sound designer, and this video is going to focus on business considerations and agreement types that you can have. So, legal business considerations. How are your deals structured? There's a number of different ways that you can structure a deal depending on where you are in your career and who you're working with. One may make more sense than others. So first off, work for hire. This arrangement is where the client owns our thing. it's many times it's as if you didn't even write it. So you may write the music and produce and mix the finished track, and then you give it to the client, and that is theirs. Everything about it. Then there are work for hire agreements where even though they own it and everything, you still maintain writer's share of royalties. We'll get into royalties later, but work for hire, that's essentially how it's constructed. Exclusive license. You own it, and by you I mean the composer, so or the sound designer. You created the thing and you own it, and you are giving permission for the client to use it for a work or project that they are working on, and you agree that while you own it, you will not exploit it through any other means for a period of time or within a specific industry. So someone comes to me and says, write, a main theme for my game, let's say. I write the music, I produce the track, I give it to them, I maintain ownership, they can use it in their game, and then I have to wait, say, 2 years or 3 years before I can then give that track to maybe another development group, or put it in a library, or sell it to someone else. There's lots of different options, but that's how an exclusive license works. And a non-exclusive license is the same thing, but there's no period of time where I cannot begin to exploit the work through another means. I create it for the client, and the next day I can go and try and pitch it for commercial spots, putting it into libraries, other teams, anything and everything. And with each one of these different options, work for hire, exclusive license, non-exclusive license, there are different pricing that goes with each of those, which we'll get into later. But be mindful of the agreement that you have and what you're giving them, and make sure that you're getting compensated correctly. Next point, know your medium, contract, and terms. Lawyers are your friend if you make them your friend. Very, very true. All right, next bullet. Establish a formal business, LLC, S Corp, etc. This could be a whole nother separate talk going into determining what type of business entity for you to create. I do not want to tell you what you should do. I don't know your situation. I personally have an LLC, but I also talk to a CPA or certified public accountant to help me make that decision. You should do that as well. But the reasons why you want to establish a business is, one, protection. It formally separates the assets that you have from yourself personally and what you have for your business. So if you do something terrible and awful and a client sues you for way too much money, all they can do is sue you for what your business has. So myself, I work from home. I have a room that I have outfitted to be appropriate for sound purposes, and I have a whole ton of gear in here. And if I were in a terrible situation where a client was suing me, all of my gear is the property of my business, so they could take that. But they would not be able to take the roof over my head. They wouldn't be able to take my home because I personally own that. My business does not. So that's one reason. Second reason is tax incentives. All of this gear that I have that I purchased for my business, I can claim at the end of the year and get a tax break. So just reduces the amount of taxes that I have to pay because a number of transactions that I was involved with were for my business. And so I can then deduct that from my personal taxes because I have a single member LLC and it's a whole legal thing. But important thing is that you can essentially reduce your tax bill at the end of the year and even receive money back if you have a business and you claim things for it. When I travel to or purchase tickets for conferences, I deduct all of that. When I go to dinner with prospects or people I'm working with. I deduct that. Sometimes I'll even do the gas that I use in my car when I got to fill up if I have to drive a long ways in order to meet someone. And if I'm working on a project and for research purposes rent a movie or purchase a game, I'll deduct that too. So lots of tax incentives for you to have a formal business entity as well. And then lastly, it comes off as professional and legitimate. It costs a little bit of money for you to establish an LLC, but it shows that you are taking this seriously, that you are not an amateur, you are not a hobbyist, you are a professional and you have a professional attitude about it. So that's another reason to establish a formal business entity as well. You also want to have a invoice service or some templates that you've created for generating invoices. That's, again, part of that professional attitude. Don't just have it in an email. Yeah, I'll send you some funds. Be able to have a piece of paper that lays it all out. And there's a few other reasons for having an invoice that you use with clients, which I'll get into later. But for this slide, it helps reinforce that professional attitude and look in addition to your LLC. There's a number of different services out there that exist. I personally use &Co because it makes it painfully easy for someone to pay me, and it makes it painfully easy for me to write up a contract. They give you the option to have a number of templates and then send that to them through an email. They can review it, approve the agreement and contract, and when I begin, I can send them an invoice that it automatically generates. So I personally like &Co, but there are a lot of different options out there. Hey Internet, this is a quick reminder that the video you just watched is one in a series on starting a career as a composer and sound designer. I created about an hour-long talk and sliced it up into different topics, so as those videos become available, be sure to check them out. If you have a question on anything, feel free to throw that in the comments, and if you'd like some game, audio, music implementation goodness in your inbox every once in a while, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Thanks so much.